Okay, Kenny. Well, we've got this fixed. I'm sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. There was a technical issue on my behalf. Um, let's just start over. Let me re introduce our guest tonight. Our guest is Mr. Kenny Mitchell, and we were talking about our planning for tomorrow. So as we go about in this with this again, Kenny, would you like to start out and tell our audience, that message that you was delivering before this issue?
Yeah, so very basic. So in order to create anything it involves planning. And planning, unfortunately, in most situations, most people like to plan after the problem, and that creates a nightmare. On the front end, make it very simple. One of the acronyms I use to help in the planning, especially with teaching basic financial literacy, is the acronym MOVE. M involves making a plan. Before the money comes into the house, what's your plan? Have a savings jar, a spending jar, and a giving jar. So you allocate the money in specific locations before the money comes into the home. The O is own your money. What does that mean? Where are you earning your money? Is it at a job? Is it at a chore? Because that's how you can maximize earning more. Is there a promotion coming up? If you are doing a chore as a child, can you take on more tasks to increase that amount of money? And then going back to the M, what's your plan for the money? So you're moving, progressing, and learning those skills that are going to help you out as an adult. If you look at the V, how do you value it? Value every dollar. When you're about to spend it, is it something that you need or is it something that you want? One of the biggest things that I think we have, especially in the land of Amazon, is can we practice delayed gratification, which means do we have to have that thing we want right away versus the thing that we need, and separating those two and getting the things that we want, but maybe putting on a separate timeline so we're not spending the money so fast. And the last one is the E. How do we expand the money once we obtain those other three letters? Well, put it in a savings account, or we're gonna put it in a money market. If you're fortunate enough to have access to a financial advisor, so we can expand it. And when we incorporate these things and we're teaching our children at a young age to do these things, they will take those things on in life and they won't be in a situation where they're spending it before they have it. That's very basic, but it's a very simple way to start planning and having that conversation as early as 7, because they watch what we do and not what we say.
So before we get going, what I like to do is as we get into the show, I like to have our audience have the opportunity to learn who you were, Kenny, before you became who you are today.
Okay.
And let's just start with this. I know your full name is Kenyatta Mitchell,
Yes.
but almost everyone calls you Kenny.
Mhm.
Where does that nickname come from, and what does it mean to you?
So my name comes from Jomo Kenyatta. He was the first Kenyan president. My mom happened to be in college when she took on the name, and it's been a blessing. It's a great conversation starter. Obviously, it holds a lot of importance in the African community. And Kenny just came out of a lot of people used to tease me about Kenyatta, and Kenny was an easier way. So that's how that name started. But I love the power of the name. But when you get in teased, Kenny is so much easier.
So take us back to the beginning. Where did you grow up, and what was that community like when you were coming up?
So it was very close. So I grew up in a town, and please don't laugh, Farmville. I love it. Close community. We maybe had one stop sign. Everybody knew each other. You would sit on the porch and just watch cars drive by. And when the sun came up, you went outside and played. Everyone knew each other, but it was wholesome. And it was very supportive of not only when I wanted to go to school at Virginia Tech, I had the support of my community. And those are some of the things that I would say I don't know if that exists as much as it did back then. But it taught me how to be passionate and to listen. And those are the same skills that I actually use in my business, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to be heard from their story. And it allowed me to be where I'm at today.
So, what was your childhood like? Paint us a picture of who Lil Kenny was. What were you into? What made you laugh? What made you drink?
So I had a whole lot of cousins. So from the time that I woke up, we were outside playing nonstop. I was into church. So we had Sunday school, we had revival, we had summer school. So all those things were a part of my life, and I love it. And my kids are being exposed to that now. I was adventurous. I honestly was not afraid to take chances. Early in my life, I had asthma really bad, and I got told no a lot actually because I couldn't do anything because of my asthma. So when I grew out of my asthma and I was able to do anything, somebody telling me no was not an option. So the first day that I learned went on the skating ring, my parents were kind of holding on to the rail. I went straight to the middle. First day in the pool, I jumped, almost drowned. But my philosophy is, I got tired of hearing no, and if anyone told me no, I challenge it and I just push through. And I'm fortunate enough, I actually still use that today. So you telling me no is not a problem for me because I heard it so much growing up that I'm immune to it. And family is very important. My sister and I, we talk every day. Unfortunately, I lost my mom in 2021, and my dad is currently in a long-term care facility. So those things are a part of what I do in planning for those bad days that no one expects to happen. When it does, when you have a plan in place, it makes it easier to grieve. But those are the things that forged who I was. The last time we spoke, we talked about my great aunt Nina. She was, very old school. If you wanted to get something, she made you work for it. So many stories just sitting on a porch, just exchanging all this wisdom that you can't get out of a book, you can't get out of a degree. And her story in itself was very inspiring to me. And it actually motivated me in the days where you don't always feel like doing it to push through, because if she could do it, and I'll share that story with you, of course, a little bit later in the podcast, I can do it. And I think those are the type of people that can give you the tools that you can use when you step outside of your parents' grasp, in a sense, and allows you to use those things, those stories that you learned when you were younger, to be a great adult.
And so, what were your earliest memories around money? Was wealth talked about in your household, or was it something that was just absent from the conversation?
Well, going back to my great aunt Nana, she was a big proponent of saving for a rainy day. That was the actual phrase. And whenever we would, whether it was birthday money or if we went out and did a chore, it wasn't oh, you have this money now, you get to go to the store. No, she would actually keep it. She was like a human bank in a sense. At the time, of course, as a kid, you want to go and spend, you got $5, you want to spend $6. And those type of things are things that kids want to do. They want to buy the things that are cool. They want to, especially now on the internet and social media, everything is popping in your face, buy this, buy that. So it's really hard to say not to buy it if you don't have somebody saying, hey, we're going to do something different with that. And the later result of doing that allows you to build those same skills when you become an adult, go out and you get a raise, you go out and get a brand new car, a big house. You lose your job and now where are you? And one of the things that I learned from her is that every year, every summer, we would go to New York to see my aunt, Nina, who lives in Brooklyn, New York. And we'd go school shopping because I'm from Farmville. There weren't any cool stores in Farmville. So you always go out of state to go school shopping. And my aunt was like, oh, okay, yeah, she had the money. She's like, oh yeah, but you're going to do these chores first. And I think one of the hardest lessons to learn as a kid is when you're doing these chores and you're working and you're sweating, whatever it is that you wanted to buy, by the time you acquire the money, you're less likely to spend it. So if you're teaching those kids like, hey, your kids, you're going to get something, but you're going to have to work for it, they're not going to be so quick to spend it. But if you don't do that and you hand it to them, they're going to blow through it and they're going to take those same skills when they become adults and they're going to teach their kids and they're going to be behind the 8 ball, living paycheck to paycheck. And it's going to be a very hard thing to afford a life insurance policy or to live a life where you can actually vacation and enjoy it and not be trapped behind, I got to go to work tomorrow. And it's that same philosophy that your kids will see, and more than likely that's going to get passed on to them. So it's perpetual, but you can fix it just by having a little discipline, a little delayed gratification, and owning where you're spending your money. Because at the end of the day, it's not easy, not unless you have a money tree. And if so, please let me know so I can quit my job tomorrow. But that's a whole nother story. Those type of lessons. She was a big proponent of it. So she instilled like, you're going to save. And then she actively made me save. It wasn't like, oh, do whatever you want. No, she held me accountable to it. And those type of things actually is something that I actually use today.
So I want to say good evening again to everyone that's watching the show tonight. And those of you that are always here, I appreciate you. Our guest, Kenny Mitchell, is going to be talking about financial literacy, especially insurance and ways of creating generational wealth. So I suggest each and every one of you, please get your pen and paper because you're going to need to take down these notes. So tell us about your family background. Who were the people who shaped you most in those early years?
I hate to sound like a broken record, but my aunt Nina was a big proponent of a lot of the things that I practice now. She actually taught me not to take anything from my parents because they obviously did a great job. So her growing up, she was 92 when she passed. I think she was born around 1908. So you can only imagine the life that she had growing up. She grew up on a farm, and at a very young age, she decided to move to New York. And she cleaned homes, and that was the job that she did. And she got paid very well, of course, at that time. And she saved up her money, and then she sent money back to her parents because she 100% wanted to take care of her parents because they did a good job of taking care of her, and she wanted to buy the property that her parents lived on. But when she sent it back to Farmville, they said they didn't know what happened to the money. Could you imagine saving up all summer for a car? You go to the dealership, you put the check on the desk, and they say, I don't see a check. Most people would take that and say, you know what? I give up, throwing a towel. I'm not doing this anymore. And the adversity wins. But she pulled her pants up. She went right back to the job that she was doing before that. She re-earned the money that she lost, and she bought the property again. So could you imagine the amount of courage it took for her to take it on the chin and had to go back and do the same thing all over again and save the same money she had actually already had. And she was able to buy the property, and actually that property was passed to us. And that's another component of generational wealth. What are you going to give not only your children's generation, but what about your children's children? There's really no end to what we can do to help the next generation out, because at the end of the day, if our family name can be in a situation where we don't have to work as hard and we have resources and income coming in, when we're looking at going to college, we're not looking to go to college because, oh, I need to make this money because I need to pay these bills. Then we're hopefully picking careers that are aligned with our happiness and not aligned with, I have to pay this mortgage to pay this because we don't have the financial resources to do that. It just puts you in a better light to make different decisions. But it all starts with planning today and being the person that says, all right, cool, I'm going to sacrifice now so that the next generation can benefit from my efforts today. And one of those ways, of course, is either by having a really good job or getting a life insurance policy, which can help build that bridge and create an even playing field so that we have the same opportunities awarded as everyone else.
So, what were the values that were instilled in you as a child? The principles you still carry with you to this day?
Treat everyone with respect. Look up or look down to no one. Everyone, whether it's the janitor or the CEO, treat everyone with respect. I still say ma'am. I still hold doors. I say yes, sir, no, sir. I think those are the things that are missed. Often when I say it, people are like, you don't have to call me ma'am. Once again, growing up in a household with my parents, going to church, paying tithes, being involved in the church and the community was very big. Showing people respect, I think, is one of the things that I think is missed. You have so many people that are, parents that are called by their children, their first name. I'm like, my name is not Kenyatta till year 7. No, I'm Mr. Mitchell. Let's readjust how you're talking to me. But that's taught in the home. I don't know if that exists in a lot of homes, but in my home, it was very, very, very important. And just being being respectful of the elders. It's like basic things, but those are the things that I carry with me down and I demand it from my children.
So, just when you think about those values, do you hold those values sacred today because they instilled in you what it is to treat people the way you want to be treated, or do you still hold those close to you because you just know that this is just family tradition?
I honestly, I want to be treated with respect, so I give it. Not that I need that, but I feel that everyone has a story, and for me to be disrespectful to anyone, I just don't think that's the way. In this short amount of time that we're on this earth, I think there's far better ways to spend your time, effort, and energy than to spend it trying to belittle someone, or if you have a fancy title thinking that you're better than someone because of your financial stability. But just treat everybody the same playing field. I think we're all humans at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter if you have more or less than someone else. Just treat them with respect, and I would expect the same thing to me. I would also say she taught me not being late to things, making sure your things are ironed, very basic things. But when you go to a job interview and you're 5 minutes late, your reputation is already spoken before you have an opportunity to say what's on your resume. Or if you don't have to buy a suit. It doesn't have to be fancy, but look presentable. Anytime you leave the house, you never know who you are going to meet. So there are obviously ways to create generational wealth through life insurance policies, but there's also opportunities for you maybe to change where you're working based on the person that you can meet at a Starbucks or at a Wendy's or wherever you are. And if you're dressed nice and you treat people with respect and you're not being disrespectful, that might open up a door that wouldn't be open if you didn't have those very basic things. You don't have to go to any special school or have a special degree to do any of those things. Those are really soft skill sets that anyone can learn, but it's missed. And unfortunately, in this society, people look at it, oh, I would never hire this guy. You saw how he talked to the waitress, or why does this guy have this on? I would never put him in a position of in my company because of that. So you never know who's watching. So you always got to be prepared. And those are the things that I used to hate. Oh, why I have to iron this shirt? Or why does it matter how I look? All these things that we don't pay attention to, they know, like, if you really want to win in life, those are the basic things you need to do on a consistent basis. And if you do, it doesn't necessarily always mean you're going to get rewarded with an opportunity, but you may miss one if you don't.
So if the people who knew you growing up were sitting right here, how would they describe the young Kenny Mitchell?
Introverted, soft-spoken. He's so nice. He's quiet. He never talks. I don't think he even has a voice. I was very, very, very laid back, introverted almost. It wasn't really until I had a internship selling books door to door that it changed. And of course, as you get in sales, your confidence builds, and those things that you weren't good at, you become better at. But yeah, I was very laid back. I played basketball in school, but I wasn't that, the conversation started. Wasn't the life of the party, so to speak. It was a nice guy.
So did faith play a role in your upbringing? If so, how has that foundation shaped the man, the husband, and the businessman you've become?
I think when you have a relationship with God, I think it allows you to operate from a different platform, because it forces you to say, you know what, I am not doing this for me. I'm doing this for him. And of course, when you're young and you're 5 and 6 and they have you at church for 8 hours, you don't see the value of it at that time. But as you get older and things start happening in your life, those are the core things that I was able to fall back on young in my career, the good days, the bad days, is that faith component. And that's something that my children believe in. And I think it's something that should be the foundation for everybody's family, because at the end of the day, we need that component. It's important.
So, Lino, let's follow up on that, because I think that's real important to understand spirituality. But can you tell us, why is it so deeply rooted in the spirituality that it means so much to you in being the great person that you
are? It's been, down times where prayer was the only thing that kept you afloat. And that whole idea of me being where I'm at today is 1000% based on faith. I never would have thought I would have owned a company, especially being introverted in school and being able to marry my wife and have 3 children and be in a position even to be on this podcast. These are all things that I don't think would have happened if I didn't have that foundation. And there were times that I wanted to give up and throw the towel in. And if you don't have, and I'm not saying a person that you can talk to, but somebody that you can talk to that's not there, that towel can easily be thrown. And I think the idea of religion sometimes gets lost. I have to go to church. I have to do these things, like all these have tos. But at the end of the day, it's a personal relationship. And if you give him the time, everything that you want will happen. Not to say right away, right? It doesn't happen like you're at McDonald's and you order something and it happens the next day or within a minute. But it's the idea of planting a seed. It forces you, like a lot of people are good when everyone's looking, but what are you doing when no one is looking at you. Are you really a good guy? Like, you're good on Sunday, but what are you like on Monday morning? Or when you're in front of a crowd, you're the performer, but behind closed door, you're a bad person. And I think it really forces you, like, I'm gonna be a good person today, and I'm gonna be a good person when the lights are off. I think making that connection is really deeply rooted in your relationship that you have with him, because at the end of the day, there's no hiding from him. Like you can't say, oh, he won't. No, he sees everything. So you have to be 100% genuine with him. And if you are, the things that you want will happen at the right time, or they won't happen until the time is right. I think it's important. I've even had situations, especially in college, when people were having a bad time, whether they were religious or not, say, hey man, I might want to try prayer, man. It's like you called your mom, called your dad, called your sister, called your girlfriend, it's still not working. I think you need to, maybe look in a different Rolodex, because the one you have right now don't have the right people in it. They're not gonna help. And as we know, most people are only around for the good times. The second anything goes bad, they're out the door. Oh man, I'm busy. Just like when you're about to move tomorrow, I was like, oh man, I can't come tomorrow because I got these things. Like, yeah. But if you want to go out for drinks tomorrow night, everybody's like, oh, let's do it. So it's conditional. And God and religion are the things that's not conditional. Doesn't matter if you're at your lowest low, your highest high, regardless, you are accepted. And I think that's the thing that outside of your parents, like, where do you get that type of love?
So, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you ever imagine you'd be here leading your own firm and helping families build wealth?
Physical therapist. I wanted to be a physical therapist. I went to school, Virginia Tech, nutrition major, and my next goal stop was going to be going to grad school, physical therapy school at VCU. And it's funny how the vision that we have for ourselves is not the plan that God has for us. So sometimes you have to throw a monkey wrench in your plan to show you that, hey, stop trying to drive a car. This is an Uber. I'm driving. You just sit in the back and relax, and I got you. But so too often we want to jump in the driver's seat. But in this case, I had an internship, random internship. I found a flyer on a bulletin board in college. It's like, I'm gonna try this thing out. 100% commission. Sales school in Tennessee for a week, and then we got implanted in North Carolina, and we had to sell books. 20 door knocks a day. I got told no. Once again, the no came back. 20 door knocks a day. Maybe 10 people will curse me out. 5 people will act like they turn the lights off as I approach the door, and maybe I'll get like 1 or 2 sales a day. But the idea of helping people out. So I was selling educational books in actually a very poor neighborhood. And these educational books had information about how to enroll in college. I sold books, Bibles. I sold these Veggie Tales, these educational Christian tools for kids. And I felt like I was making an impact. And I did that internship. And after doing that, and I ran my own business, 100% commission. I didn't get paid salary or anything. And I saw, like, man, I can do this. And when I came back to school, I was like, I don't know if I really want to do physical therapy anymore. And I got into the business world and worked with a few finance companies. And after 2009, I was in the insurance business. I got out. My dad had his scenario in 2018. And then I relaunched the company in 2020, focusing on insurance and planning, because the thing that happened to him could have been differently if we had a plan in place. Like, before the storm comes, do you have an umbrella in the car? Because if you don't and you enjoy being wet, great. But if you don't enjoy being wet, then that umbrella is paramount, but you have to plan before the storm. And I realized my focus going forward in this business is getting to people and creating a plan before a bad day happens, because it will at some point.
Well, look, I'm going to put this, this is in the comments here. I'm going to put this on the screen for you, and you can respond. Okay. This young lady, Nina Marie Hurd, says that your thoughts are positive and very encouraging.
Oh, thank you.
So, with everything on your plate right now, the business, the family, the community work, what truly keeps you grounded and centered?
My children, my wife, she's a big proponent of my success. So aside from my faith, having someone to believe in your dream, even if the dream isn't physically present yet. So when you're telling somebody about something that hasn't happened yet, their belief factor is based on show me. She's never asked me to show me. She's always been that foundation, whether it was going great, whether it was going bad, whatever. She was always my rock. So she's my why. I want to put this in the perspective of when we're out here and we are growing our financial foundation, it's also important to involve and invite the right people to be a part of that plan, whether it's consultants to help you out with your finances, or a great pastor, or a great lawyer. All those things. When you're sitting at your table of life, you want to have the right people at your table, because the right people at your table will help fund your dream and make your financial ability grow, and just help you out overall. So my wife has been my rock, and she's been the main reason why my success is here, because she's been that foundation. Um, my children, secondly, my daughter loves to spend money, and we're trying to focus on a different path. So she's another reason, but it's one of those things, and we're giving her certain tools to help her mitigate that. I think she's got to be like a surgeon, astronaut, and a president of something in order to facilitate her lifestyle. But those are the things when I wake up in the morning, or I'm out in front of a client, or I'm about to make the next phone call. Those are the things that push me on the days when you don't feel like it, because it's not about a feeling. It's about, this is your job. You have to get in front of as many people as possible, because at the end of the day, for every person that doesn't have a plan, they're now grieving in a different, or probably a harder financial reality, because of not having somebody come in and talk to them. So my goal is to try to talk to as many people as I can, while I'm still on this planet, to help them plan for those days.
Well, let's transition over to your education in the Virginia Tech years. You're a Virginia Tech Hokie. Tell us why you chose Virginia Tech, and what was it about the school that called your name?
Let me tell you, it's my sister. My sister, that's my road dog. We're very close. I know some siblings fight and argue, and I'm like, I don't think we've ever had an argument ever. So she's 2 years older than me, and she went to Virginia Tech first. And because she was my hero, I followed. So I used to go and visit her when I was in 11th grade and 12th grade. And honestly, I applied to a lot of schools, but the second I got accepted to Virginia Tech, I was like, I tore up the other acceptance letters and went straight to Virginia Tech. So that was the reason I went. And then, of course, because they had a really good program for what I wanted to do, physical therapy, I was like, all right, this is perfect alignment. And it was great, man. I would love for my kids to go. Of course, my daughter's interested in becoming a veterinarian, so they have a good veterinarian program. So hopefully she gets to go as well. But I loved it. Great experience. Coming from Farmville, very small school, very, classrooms, maybe 20 or less, to going to Virginia Tech, where I had a classroom full of 200 students, and I'm introverted. So it was an adjustment, not to say the least. But I think it also allowed me to grow, because it was uncomfortable. And I think that's another facet of life, and we can be who we're going to be, but in order to grow, you have to do things that are uncomfortable, and that was very uncomfortable for me.
So what did you study at Virginia Tech? And looking back, how did that area of study connect to the work you're doing today?
So I will say this, and I think this is something that's lost across all degrees. So I specialize in nutrition, human nutrition, food, and exercise. And I think too often, as we talk about financial literacy, we're talking about generational wealth, and we're talking about all these different ideas to create a bridge. But I think the key component that's often missed, especially in our community, is the health standpoint. What are we doing to our bodies? If our activities during the day is saving, we're generating wealth, and we have all these policies, and we're planning, we're ready, but then our bodies are high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these things that are going to kill us, can we really build? Yeah, of course, the life insurance policy would be great for the next generation, but while we're here, what can we do to really make ourselves better? So I'm a big proponent. My wife and I, we get up, not that we like to, at 4:45 in the morning, we go to the gym, because I think the investment in the future should start with ourselves first, our health, nutritionally. A lot of insurance plans offer a dietitian. If you don't, Google, ChatGPT it, Claude it. There are ways for us to figure out how can we live a healthier life, because if we don't have our health, none of the stuff we're talking about today matters. Because the second that you get sick, money is a secondary issue. Planning is a secondary issue. And the only thing that's going to matter is you getting better. So that's one of the things it taught me. Like what you put in your body is 100% important, regardless of what your financial goals are. Because the second that you get sick, in my dad's case, worked his whole life. He had a triple bypass, 2 strokes. The second stroke put him into a long-term care facility. So all those years of working, waking up early, putting money to the side for the future, it's a balance. So if anything, I think I picked the right major because it taught me that that's vital. Your nutrition is the Uber driver in your life, and without it, you're just going to be in a parking lot of sickness.
So, what was it like being a black student at a predominantly white institution? Be honest with us. What was the real experience like day to day?
It was definitely hard. I wasn't an athlete or anything, so going into a classroom and being one or two, it's literally like a cat going in a room full of dogs, right? Yeah, they're both animals, right? They should get along, but realistically, to the cat, they are fearful. To the dog, it's like, what's a cat worried about? Like, well, you're not a cat, so let's just talk about the idea of being in a situation where you're not the only one, or when you're the only one, or there's only a few. So it's different when you get to wear the hat versus somebody wearing a hat, or the idea of somebody holding a hot pan versus somebody watch somebody hold a hot pan. Like if you're not holding a hot pan, you have no idea what it feels like. So it's that and a disconnect of, oh, it should be fine, it's easy. I'm like, it's not. But you learn to get through it. But yeah, it was very intimidating. Very. I remember one of my seminar classes freshman year, and I give a presentation in front of 200 people. I was like, I wanted to drop out of school and go to a different school. I was like, my mom was like, that's not an option. So I was like, well, here we go. I showed up, and of course, it's one of those uncomfortable growing things. It's hard. You do it, and you reflect, and then you move on, and you become better. Now, granted, before it sucked. Don't get me wrong; it was not easy, but nothing that prepares you to be better is easy.
Now I want to tell you, I'm a military vet, and I was actually stationed in Norfolk,
Mhm.
and I'm very familiar with Blacksburg. I've actually traveled over there, and it was true enough. It was culture shock.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was that like for you being in Blacksburg, Virginia? At that time, you're a young man, 18 years old, and you're like striking out to do these great things in college. What was that like for you?
Well, I will say this: the same thing that was in Farmville, that community nature, that community feeling of finding like-minded people, and you corral together, and you have that like experience, even though the population is different. So yeah, my sister, and I think that gave me an advantage because I was friends with her friends, whether she wanted to or not. I'm like, I'm this person, like why? I'm like the little brother that's like tagging along, but it creates comfort. The cat dog analogy, like if you're the cat and you're the only cat in a room full of dogs, it's like it's gonna suck. But find all the cats and then you figure out a way to make it work. And that's the thing that I think every community should understand is like if there's something handed to you, it shouldn't be this, oh, I don't want to deal with it, I'll go somewhere else. Like, no, push through it. You'll be a better person. And I think that's the reason why a lot of issues are in this country is because no one wants to push through those difficult conversations. They don't want to put themselves in difficult environments. I'm just going to stay on this side. I'm never going to involve myself on this side and live in a very isolated world where we can work together, but you have to learn to go on both sides. And it was not easy. I could easily have gone to HBCU, but like I said, I was following my sister. So I think if she had gone to whatever a different school, I probably would follow right behind her. But yeah, it was definitely having the community and finding like-minded people. It made it easier. And the experience, even though it was intimidating at first, you would still hang out with your friends. You would go to the classroom, of course, very short-lived, and then the rest of the experience was outside of the classroom, so it wasn't that bad.
So, were there professors or mentors at Virginia Tech who poured into you, or were there people who saw something in you and pushed you beyond what you thought you were capable of?
Um, I would say maybe my Black history professor. Um, Outside of him, and one other professor that actually was he was my humanities teacher, and he had a relationship with one of the admissions board for VCU, And if I had wanted to, he was going to push getting me into VCU. What he saw in me, I don't know. I took, my first 2 years of school, I kind of like goofed off, wasn't the best student. And I remember sitting across the table. Remember, keep in mind, I hate somebody telling me no. I sit across the table from my academic advisor, and she gave me this look like, you're going to fail out. I'm like, I'm failing out because I'm not trying. And that look of her thinking I couldn't do something ignited a fire in me. And the following semester, I started going to the math appointment on Fridays. I cut out, like, same thing, delayed gratification. I focused 100% of my time into studying. And what I found out, guess what? When you put in work, it becomes easier. And I went from whatever my GPA was to making the dean's list, and I look forward to tests because I was prepared and planning. So that one interaction with her, even though maybe a little toxic, I don't know, really pushed me to say, like, when you really want something, you got to work for it. But also, don't sell yourself short and let somebody else say what you can't do. And from that point on, school became very easy because of the amount of work I put in the front end. But I would say, honestly, I want to redirect my answer. I think she was probably my biggest person to motivate me, because without her, I probably just would have coasted through school, not really taking it serious. But she really pushed me, because that look of doubt in her eyes, and she put me on this "you're not going to make it" boat. I'm like, no, not on my watch. And that literally pushed me to graduate and get to where I'm at right now.
So, were there moments of doubt during your college years, like times when you questioned whether you belonged or whether you could finish? And how did you push through? Because I understand when you mentioned, what this professor was saying to you and how it kind of like motivated you. But was there more to that whole entire element that added these things to you?
Um, I would say, I mean, like I said, the first 2 years, I wasn't really trying, to be honest. I was, kind of showing up. And I think one reality was like, man, I'm already 2 years in. I have to graduate. Otherwise, I'm going to have no degree, and I have to pay this money back. And I probably won't find a job, so I don't have a degree. And then combined with the way that she looked across the table and said, I don't, if you don't get this GPA up, you're going to fail out. That really pushed me. And it's really allowed me to say, you know what, I need to lock in. And I think sometimes when people say sometimes you should wait to go to college, I think that was one of the times that probably would have benefited me if I had waited, because I really didn't have a true appreciation for it. Because at the time, like, why would I not take it full advantage of it when I had the opportunity before the interaction with her? That should have never happened. But I'm glad that it did happen, because it really pushed me to not only allow opinions not to form who I am, but to say I can do it. But it involves effort. There's no escaping results without some form of effort. People will look at, a famous basketball player or hockey player, and they'll look at the accomplishments, the medals, and they'll say, oh, I want to be like this person. I'm like, yeah, that's years of work. You can't arrive at the finish line if you just started the race.
Here's another comment here from Nina Marie Hurd. I put it on the screen. Says, I'm proud of the man he is and has always been a great person, and his life and words reflect the kind of man he is. His level of integrity is unsurpassed. He turns the word no into the word yes.
Yeah, that's my Aunt Nina, that lives in New York. Yeah.
Well, so what was the proudest moment at Virginia Tech? A moment of triumph that you still think about?
The day I made Dean's List. My mom literally put it in the Farmville Herald. That's the type of happiness that she and I both felt, because it goes from all right, you expect something, but you're not putting in effort. Like, you have this cake you want to make, but you just have all the ingredients on the table, but you haven't put it in the oven, but you expect the cake. I expected the cake without the effort. And the second I applied the effort, I was like, oh, I can do it. And that's all I need, that little bit of confidence. And from there, just excelled. And I stuck to my plan, and my plan was study the same day, and it worked. And that's the same thing we can apply in our personal lives. Create a plan of some sort and stick to it consistently. And I promise you, if you do that, the results that you desire, regardless of how long it takes, it will get there.
I gotta say that I as I listen to where we are at this point in this interview, I'm really, really proud of your continual pushing, because I think for a lot of young kids, especially being like way off in like a real rural area like Blacksburg,
Mhm.
it's one of those things that's kind of hard to adjust.
Mhm.
But you found a way to adjust, and that's the thing that I think shows the resiliency in you.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, were you always that resilient, or was it that you heard those voices up here that saying, "Hey, you got to keep going"?
It was, you know what? I think some people like to hide from adversity, like, oh, that's a puddle of water. I'm not gonna walk through. I'm gonna walk around it. And they go through life as things get thrown at them, they go around it. My biggest adversity was asthma, and watching out the window, having my sister and cousins play, and I couldn't. And that restraint, I felt like I was in a straitjacket. I was like, I wanted to go outside, but I couldn't because of this thing that wouldn't allow me to do it. And the second that that was released, my idea is that if I want to do something, I am going to do it. And I'm not going to allow somebody's opinion to tell me no. And in fact, if you tell me no, I'm probably going to do it even harder. And I think it boils down to, if you really want something, right? First of all, you have to define why you're doing it. That's important. And then just go after it. And you have to close your ears, because there are going to be naysayers. In fact, those are the first people to show up. But naysayers will often become your biggest cheerleaders and jealous of your results. Before, they will, oh, you can't do that, why you change, why you, no, I don't have time for all that. So it's something that out of dealing with, asthma, and having my mom tell me no, which I couldn't physically do it. It really put this fire inside of me. Whenever something was presented to me that I really wanted to do, I didn't allow anything to stop me from doing it. And I think that just pushed through. And then the internship, doing the bookstore to door, and hearing no even more, and then learning the business side, keeping track of my books and customer relationships and the power of referral and being consistent and doing what you say you're supposed to do. All these things that are taught in all these advanced business classes, I was doing as a college kid. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was basically running a business, and I got addicted to it. So when you add resilience and drive and a goal all in the same pot, you will get results. They don't always show up when you want them to, but if you stick with it, they will.
So college teaches us a lot more than what's in the textbooks.
Mhm.
What did Virginia Tech teach you about life, about people, and about yourself?
Um, so first day of school and going into a classroom where, uh, it teaches you that you have to be able to adjust, and you have to be comfortable doing things that are uncomfortable, because what we like doing is often in a small box of what we have to do. And they're like, oh, I want to sit and watch TV all day. You can do that, but you're going to be homeless, like, right? So what is the have to? The have to box is going to be bigger. It's going to be filled with all these things that no one likes to do, but those are the things that will make you better. And it has to be understanding that in order for you to move forward, the things that you want to do has to be changed to the things you have to do. And I think going to a school where it forced me, because I could have easily have gone with my friends, and it would have been predominantly, black school, and it would have been more comfortable. And then I get into the real world, and I wouldn't be able to talk to everybody. And it would be like, maybe I don't know what it would be like, but I think I felt like it helped me become more adaptable. That I could talk to anybody. My clients, in my personal book of business, doesn't matter who it is. I have, people from Greece, Germany. It doesn't matter where they're from. It's just if they have the need, then I'm able to help them out.
So, was there a single pivotal experience at Virginia Tech, a moment, a conversation, an event that changed the direction of your life?
Um, I hate to go back to the same moment. I vividly, literally could draw the picture of me sitting across the table from this lady and her telling me my future was over. Like, you're not going to be at Virginia Tech, and she didn't believe it. And she was my academic advisor. I'm like, you're supposed to be my motivation. How how are we having this conversation? But she was looking at my track record. My track record wasn't that of somebody that wanted to graduate. It was that of somebody that's goofing off. So for her, you're wasting my time. I'm in here telling you what classes you need to take. You taking the classes and not even paying attention. So I get why she was saying that, but I also said, like, hey, what she showed me in her eyes pushed me far beyond what I think I would have ever created by myself. And for her to sit across the table, I wish I knew her name. I would love to give her a call and give her like a quick update on what's going on. But she indirectly motivated me to be a better student, and that allowed me to graduate, and all these other things happened because of that. I don't know if she didn't do what she did, would I've continued on the path and not paid attention and moved back to Farmville? Not to say that's a bad thing. Or will I be where I'm at today without that experience, without the degree? I don't know. But I would say that was probably the pivotal point that gave me confidence to be a student. And I felt like I could have gone to physical therapy school and continue to be on the dean's list. And that was blind confidence. I've never had that before. I literally learned how to study in college, not in high school. It was crazy.
So, if you could sit down with your college age self right now, what would you tell him?
Freshman year, go to class. Physics is not a class you want to skip. Organic chemistry is not a class you want to show up as a test day. These are things that I would whisper in his ear. Go to class, please. But by the grace of God, he allowed me to maintain the GPA that was high enough not to get kicked out. And he also introduced that conversation that allowed me to know that I can do things if I want to, but I need the right motivation to do it. And she was the motivation that he said.
So, what does Virginia Tech mean to you today, not just as an alma mater, but as a chapter in your story?
I mean, without Virginia Tech, one, the experiences, the people that I met, I'm still really good friends with. I have a friend that literally just just retired. All these great relationships that I still go out and they come to see me, I go to see them. But I would say it would have never given me the internship. That internship gave me the confidence. That confidence gave me the ability to go out into any job. And when I'm interviewing, I'm not scared to take on a no or whatever the scenario is. My confidence is not altered because of the person in front of me. And I think if I'd gone to a different school, would I have did that internship? Like everything happens for a reason. When you're going through it, you don't understand it. But when you look back, like, wow, everything happens because of this thing that happened on this specific day. And if you remove any of those one pieces, it changed the trajectory of where I'm at today. So I think it was like I chose the right school, and the things that happened allowed me to get to where I'm at right now. Because I don't know if I ever would have had the confidence out of Farmville to be able to say I want to do my own business. And then I wouldn't have worked at the company I worked at when I got out of school, wouldn't have met my wife, who's a supporter. And then all these things can easily be worse or better. And that's one of the things I think they all happen for a reason. So I would say that's the pivotal point. I think it introduced me to the right people that are still good friends, the right experiences, including the academic advisor, and then that internship that gave me the confidence to go out and say, you know what, I think I can run my own business. And it allowed me to do that.
So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you have your pen and papers ready. Ken, let's talk about now the financial literacy and closing the gap.
Mm-hmm.
So data consistently shows that Black families are among the most underinsured in America.
Mm-hmm.
In your experience, why is that? What's really going on beneath the surface?
So this is what I've seen, and it goes back to need versus want. And there may be some misconceptions on the price, but in some instances, it's not a priority. And I guess the reality is, how do you make it a priority? And because we've seen those Facebook feeds that come through, we're collecting a plate for this person, we're collecting a plate for that person. But if we are able to look at very simply, like there are multiple policies that you can buy, a term, whole life, IUL. Obviously, term is the least expensive. You don't have to get $1 million policy, but if you don't even have a burial policy in place, you're going to create a financial burden on your family. When you look at a breadwinner in a household, or even in a household where it's 50-50, let's say you have $100,000 coming in, 50,000 from the wife, 50,000 from the husband, $100,000 coming in. The bills are split down the middle. If you take away half, how does the person that is left behind go make up the other half without getting remarried like immediately? So you remove that income. It is not so much the income that's removed that year, is the income over time. So if you don't have a policy in place, that 50% income is removed. Now your wife or husband have to sell a house. You got to pull the kids out of school, possibly live with someone. And how are your kids, your wife going to grieve, or your husband going to grieve if you don't have that in place? So I think the educational component is like you don't have to have $1 million policy, but something in place. There's something that you're buying right now that if you said, hey, maybe not the Starbucks, maybe not the McDonald's, $15 a month, $20 a month, it does not have, you don't have to get a $6,000 policy. You don't have to do that. But if you have a wife, if you have children, it's important for you to do that. And the other aspect of planning too is that if you do have a policy in place, do you have assets? Is having a will in place important? Because as we know, and I'm sure every family has dealt with this, probate is a nightmare. They will come in and take assets from that are meant for your family in terms of the cost and allocate it to the state. And there's ways that we can get around that. If you don't mind handing the state money, well, let's plan for it. The idea is that you don't have to spend a lot of time planning. Have a conversation about, first of all, how much life insurance do you need? Because that's an arbitrary question. Oh, I need 50,000. Well, you make 50,000, so you get a $50,000 policy. Now, if you subtract the funeral, and that's another thing, like how much is your funeral going to be? You got $40,000 if you have a $10,000 funeral. What's $40,000 going to be to your wife when you make $50,000 a year? She's going to live maybe 8 months, 9 months, and then what? What is the sufficient amount of life insurance to at least take your spouse out 10 years? So now she has 10 years to grieve. Maybe you're paying off college. Maybe you're paying off the house. Maybe you're giving each kid $100,000. Imagine going into college, going into the real world where you have $100,000 in your bank. Are you saying yes to that job that you don't like because you have to? Or are you saying, you know what, I don't have to take this job because I have $100,000 in the bank. So now we're hopefully going to opportunities that we want to and not that we have to because of financial obligations. So just having that type of conversation, and I think that's the disconnect. They either think it's too expensive or they don't prioritize it, and they put other things in front of that, and it creates obviously an instant burden the second that they die because everybody's going to die. There's no escaping that. That's why I see they don't they just don't see, not all obviously, but the majority they don't see the value in it. And once again, if they had an Aunt Nina that talked to them about these things, the importance will be ingrained from a young age and it's carried into adulthood. But if you don't have that, it's really hard to say, well, I'm only making this amount of money. I don't want to pay any money for my family will figure it out when I pass. I'm like, yeah, they'll figure it out. It's not going to be like something that they're going to enjoy. And the lasting memory of you is going to be, we had to pay for this out of pocket and I'm on a payment plan with the funeral home because we don't have a policy in place. So I think if we can change the narrative of it's not a bill, it's a responsibility if you have a kid. It really is. If you have children, if you have things that you want to pay off, it is a responsibility for you to have something, whether they want to or not. $5 a month. There's a policy out there that's $10 a month. Really, it really is. And the idea is not everybody gets approved for life insurance. So that's the other caveat. Let's try to get approved. And then if we do get approved, let's work to a number that's going to make sense that you can still go out and get your Starbucks and the other things that you like doing. But let's get something on the table. And I think that's the key. I think that the narrative needs to change earlier in the generation so they understand the importance of planning. So then they become adults. That this is not I'm not going to pay this. I'm not going to pay all this money for policy, and I'm not even going to benefit from it. Well, actually, you can because they have policies that build cash value that you can borrow against. They have policies, in my dad's case, that provides care if you have a sickness or illness, where you can get money out of policy and it pays for that person to come in. Because my dad's facility that he's in is $7,000 a month. Could you imagine having whatever your nest egg is, even if you had $1 million in that nest egg, $7,000 a month, you would get to $1 million really quickly, especially if he's been in the facility since 2018. But if you had a policy in place to pay for it, now you're not having to sell something to pay for a facility. Your wife is allowed to grieve. The kids can stay in the same school, or the husband can stay in the same neighborhood because you have a policy to take care of that need. That is inevitable. I don't know what it is in the last 4 years. My wife and I, we've lost friends at our age, and it's not the old people that are dying that historically we think. Like, there are young people dying all the time. So it's not this magic age, or even if you're healthy, there's no indication of when it's going to happen. So the idea is to put something in place. It doesn't have to be an elaborate policy, just something, and then start out small. And then we can create other strategies. And if you need a will set up, or or a trust set up. All these things are easily accessible. And in my practice, I have partnerships with CPAs, estate attorneys. So my idea is that when you come to me, we have a team. So if I can't personally do it, my individual license, I have people that I can refer you out to. I have a financial advisor. They'll be more than happy to sit down with you once you went through that acronym and you get to the E and you're expanding your income and it's beyond the leaps and bounds of whatever your financial institution can do, and you want to maybe invest. I can connect you with someone that can do that. So I like to look at it, and I don't want to make it sound like crazy, but like Walmart, when you go to Walmart, there's nothing that you don't have to leave that store for. My Nana, when she was growing in the store, she used to go 5 different stores to get meat. I'm like, why are we doing that? What if you had one place that you can go to get all your needs? You have to pick a phone call. You make one phone call and everything else is taken care of. So it makes it easier, and it doesn't become like this cumbersome problem where, I got a plan, but I got to call my advisor. I got to call this person. One phone call. It makes it easy.
So financial literacy, we hear that term a whole lot. But what does it actually mean in real everyday life, and why have our schools so consistently failed to teach it?
That's a great question. I think the primary reason is that school is focusing on getting these kids to graduate, to meet certain academic achievements so that school can get funded. Why they haven't, and I think some schools in South Florida, they're going to be incorporating financial literacy, but I don't know why it's not on the agenda, because regardless of what degree that you get and what school you go to, if you don't understand money, you're going to work forever. I have some retirees, like my friend just retired at 47, because he understands financial literacy. He did not go and get the biggest house. He did not get the biggest car. He put his money to work. And because his money was working for him, now he doesn't. The school teaches you different. Go get a degree. And then what they say, get a degree, get a house, right? And then go get married. And all these things cost money. But if you don't understand money, all those things are going to put you in a situation where you're going to be grinding every day and you're not going to have a financial future, because all your money is going to all the things that you're acquiring, as opposed to what is your plan before you get the money, like I talked about in my MOVE acronym. In schools, I don't know if they have a place for it. They should, because regardless of what degree they have or what school they go to, they're going to need to understand money, because there's nothing, you can't leave your house without spending $1. You can't. I wish I knew like a better answer, but it's something that should be mandatory. And it doesn't have to be a 4-semester course. It can be a semester course, something before you graduate. That should be something that should be taught, because it's needed. You go to college, what's the first thing they give you when you go to college? You have all those credit card companies lined up, hand out applications to kids that have no idea about credit cards, no idea. You set them up for failure. So now they graduate with credit card debt. Credit cards they've never been introduced to, if they understood that I'm not going to buy it because I don't have it. Versus I got $1,000, no, they got $1,000, and they're going to charge you $2,000 for it. That's simple. I was sucked into that. I remember Discover. It's like, discover the difference. Break away from your parents. That's so predatory. But if you're a young kid, you have no idea. I'm going to get a credit card. And in your mind, I'm going to use it for emergency. But guess what becomes emergency? Everything. And you wind up graduating college debt.
So I have a comment here that I would love for you to, I'm going to put it on the screen, and if you would respond to this. This person says it isn't because schools are failing. They have to work within a budget, and that means austerity. The problem is uninvolved parents.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I mean, I think too often we do put all this onus, because I have friends that are teachers, all the onus on the parent, on the teachers, like the parents, the teachers are supposed to do everything. But if foundationally, if we're doing this in the home, because in the home, when they come home on Friday, you're paying the light bill, you're paying the mortgage, you're paying the car pay, you're paying all these things, and money is going out of the house. Are you having conversations with your kids about, hey, let me talk to you about this house that we live, this community that we live in, and if you want a community like this is how your dad and I are doing it. But I know when I was growing up, at least my Aunt Nana, parents and kids never talked about financial separation. You don't need to know what I have in my bank account. You don't need none of this separation, unfortunately. Why are you all in my business? It's like, oh, you want me to die? I'm like, no, if you do die, okay, never mind. And it's just like, I'm not telling you anything about anything because it's none of your business. I'm like, well, if you die, it's gonna be my business. So, but if you can have that open conversation and not be on the offensive or the defensive and be on offense, like, no, you're preparing your kid that when they become an adult, they can hopefully make better financial situations so that the next generation don't have the same adversities that this generation had or the next. But she had a great point. It's not the school's responsibility. In some kids, it would be great if they offered it as an elective. But I think if we can move to having more of parents be involved, because the parents are the ones that are making the money and paying the bills. Those are the ones that's actually bringing money into the home. So why not have the parents teach? And then if they had resources to be, all right, what do I teach? I can give you the slide on what I talk about with the move to give them some ideas. But there are a lot of resources out there that you have access to, but you gotta want to do it.
So help us understand the difference between simply having a life insurance policy and actually building generational wealth. Are they the same thing, or is there a bigger picture?
So when you start looking at generational wealth, then we're looking beyond a burial policy. So a burial policy is, 10,000. If somebody wants to get cremated, 5, 7, wherever your price range is. Generational wealth is something where you have a policy that has a significant amount, enough to pay for the death benefit, but then enough for that policy to pay off the house, right? So now you are taking away a mortgage from the family that was left behind. And now that money that was allocated to the mortgage can be allocated to something else, hopefully something that is financially advantageous. If the kids' colleges are now paid off, that's less of money going out. So when you have a policy that can pay off things and then give someone a nest egg, assuming the person are making smart financial decisions, that's how generational wealth starts. Is I have $4 that I'm going to take 2 to pay off, and these other 2 I'm going to put in the market. So when that money grows and you go throughout your life, guess what's going to happen to that growth? It's going to get passed to the next generation. And if those financial skills are taught at an early age, the next generation is going to take that same wealth that was acquired and hopefully make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you have this perpetual ball of wealth that's growing larger and larger every generation because they are adhering to these very basic philosophies of we are going to manage our money and we're going to teach financial literacy early. And if you do those things, the next generations can be in a different financial situation. And you don't have to be a Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or any of those things. So you can put yourself in a better situation. But okay, if you're going to get the big policy, it's going to cost a little bit more, right? But okay, so what are the things you can take away? Need versus want. Do you want the next generation to be sufficient where they don't have to worry about working? Do you want the generation after that to be sufficient? The generation after that, then you can get a policy to do that. And those are some of the ways you can do it. And or if you are a business owner, there are ways for you to make money. But the idea of passing that wealth on, at least through a life insurance policy, the bigger the policy, in education, because what you don't want to do either is you don't have the financial literacy component for your kids. You get $1 million policy, you give the money to your kids. What do you think they're going to do? blow right through it. So how can you get around that? Well, let's set up a trust, right? So now this big policy that you have, like, oh, okay, so you want this money, son, daughter? Okay, we're going to set up milestones. You get a percentage at 25, another percentage at 35. And oh, by the way, the percentage you get at 25, you have to use for school or health or whatever parameters that you set. And when you set these parameters up in a trust, now your voice in death is becoming the financial seed that they need to grow that wealth that you left behind. So just giving somebody money is like giving somebody homeless $1 or $2. Yeah, okay, that's the help out for the day. But what about tomorrow? So when you have the ability to afford a policy like that, you got to put other systems in place. Like we talked about this whole podcast, they have to understand the financial literacy portion of it in order to take that money that they get and put it in a better place. If they don't, they're going to blow right through it.
So you talk about helping families pass assets outside of probate. Mm-hmm. Can you break that down in plain everyday language for someone who has never heard that term before?
So I'll give you a for instance. So my mom, when she passed, she did not have a bank account with a beneficiary. So when you don't have an asset assigned to a beneficiary, the state comes in. And what they do is they say, okay, This estate has X amount of dollars. It may be have a house if it's not a beneficiary attached to it. It may have all these assets. And what probate is designed for is that people that you could have technically owed money to, it gives them the ability to come to the estate and say, I'm going to get my portion because Kenny, I was supposed to do this kitchen and Kenny shorted me $2,000. And they can come and they can contest, like, this estate owes me $2,000. So when you have an asset and it's not attached to anyone, probate comes into play. And if you have a house in probate, ideally you can't rent it out for like 2 years. Probate can be anywhere from a year to 2 years. And after probate, of course, it becomes yours. But during that time frame, there is a probate cost because you have probate attorneys. So now, if you're about to inherit an estate and it has a probate attached to it, you may have to pay out additional money just to get those assets passed to the next generation. So the last, like I mentioned before, last thing you want to worry about when someone passed because you want to grieve is like, oh, my mom. In the case with my mom, we had to wait. Probate was like a year. It was a nightmare. We had to pay money out of pocket, had to get an attorney. A crazy amount of money was paid. And all it took was just for her to have a beneficiary on it. And when you don't have a beneficiary on it, probate will come in. And when you do, you don't have to worry about it. And there are some ideas that a will is better than a trust. And I always leave that in the hands of, you need to talk to an estate attorney and see what option is best for
Um, what is the single most common financial mistake you see families making, and how does it cost them in the long run?
you. Living outside of means, which I think is across the board. So let's say they get a raise and then they automatically increase all their expenses. So the raise is never felt. So they get a raise 5,000, they increase their expenses 5,000. And not having a budget in place. So when they're spending frivolously. They don't even know where their money is going. And at the end of the day, by the time they get down to the last dollar, it's where's the next check coming. And when you have a system like that in place, they never have money to put to the side because everything is going out.
So, what does it truly mean to leave a legacy? Not just financially, but what does a real legacy look like and feel like for a family?
I think a legacy to me is the values that I hold true. Is hopefully the conversation in the room 2 generations from now. That what I've taught my kids and the things that they've seen in the household is something that they're teaching their kids, and that's being passed on. So that, like I talked about on Nina and all the things that she taught me, that I hope the same thing is being received by my children, that they'll be able to pass on to theirs.
So, when a family sits across the table from you and says, Kenny, we can't afford life insurance, what do you say to them? Walk us through that conversation.
I think so. I think you have to look at their what's their break even in the household. So what do they have coming in? What do they have going out? And I think if you look at a very simple financial analysis of there's stuff that's going out that really need a line item, stuff that they may not need. Now, that's a difficult conversation because when you work hard, the last thing you want to do is subtract things that you enjoy. But in order to make room for that policy is literally looking at what is a safe amount that we can do that you can consistently pay that's not going to break the bank that still allows you to do what you want to do. And that involves me looking at their finances. So we're looking at your light bill, your mortgage, and writing down everything and coming up to tally how much money you have coming in and then see where there is wiggle room. And then we start there. And at the end of the day, if they can't truly afford it, then the last thing I want to do is create a burden. But I will give them options where something is better than nothing. You can get a policy $5,000 if that's what you can afford, but not putting a limit of I'm just going to not do anything.
So, if a young black man or woman in their 20s came to you today and asked where to start their financial journey, what would be your first piece of advice?
I would say the first thing I would tell them is like maximize your 401k, whatever you're at, especially if they're matching. I would also say just like when your check engine light come on, you don't just keep driving and turn the music up and hope it goes away. Hopefully you take it to a mechanic or you don't go on YouTube and try to figure it out. But if you want the financial future, it's important to invite the right people to the table. I don't think it would be a bad idea to get a financial advisor, regardless of what type of money you're making, right? Because if you don't know where to put it, don't roll the dice either, you know? And I think that when you're planning your financial future, having someone that knows the ins and outs that can put you in a better situation, it's better to talk to them early. Because just think, if you're able to make better financial decisions early in your 20s, do you have to work to 65? I had a client 2 weeks ago. She was just mesmerized. I want to 67 is when I'm going to retire. I said, why are you associating age with retirement? Really, it's an amount. What's the amount that you need to be able to ride off into the sunset without having to work again? And if you can get to that number in your 40s versus your 50s, or whatever, or your 50s versus your 60s, then you can retire early. But that starts with planning. If you're doing it at 20s, in your 20s, why not get a financial advisor and have him guide you in that? So you don't have to work to 65. Maybe you can retire at 55 or 40, 45, or whatever the number is. But you need a professional to be able to do that and not try to figure it out yourself, because the 401k can get you there, but I think a financial advisor can take you to the top. And of course, insurance agents.
So, how do you use community education, workshops, conversations, and partnerships to spread the message of financial literacy beyond your one-on-one client work?
I'm really big into partnerships. So I work with CPA firms. I work with a gentleman, Lixon Nelson, who owns a company here in Florida, who works with children that have disabilities. He grew up, he had a severe disability, and he got put through the system. He was able to graduate from college, and he started his nonprofit that helps children. It's Alliance Community Employment Services, and he helps people with disabilities find employment. So I was able to give, a presentation once regarding financial literacy, and I think those are the little conversations that I have in those communities. It starts because I don't know if it's happening in the household, and in most cases they'll take that conversation home and hopefully start a movement. So my partnership CPA firms, I work with other insurance agencies that don't necessarily focus in life insurance, and then I have a financial advisor where I give him my financial advising clients, and then he'll send me insurance clients. They partnerships are key. I'll send referrals to my estate attorney, and then it's reciprocated. So for me, it's only me, and I'm really good at meeting new people. But I think it's also important to treat clients right, because there's nothing more powerful in sales than a referral. But then also partner with other people that have established relationships to be able to add a value for their clients, and a mutual understanding. Like, I'm going to send you clients and vice versa, so it's not like a one-sided transaction. But that's how I was able to grow my business, and just honestly do what you say, treat people right, listen, and just create the right policy for that family. There's no cookie cutout. Every policy is different. Some people are love terms. Some people love index policies. Some people love whole life, and they're all individually based. And one recommendation does not mean that all recommendations follow that.
So, paint us a picture of what financial freedom actually looks like, not for a millionaire, but for the everyday Black family in America. And what does that life feel like?
I think when you can get to a point, and I think this is another part of the financial planning, is, do you have like a nest egg, in a sense that if you were to get sick for 6 months or seven, do you have your salary put away, having that nice little cushion, right? Because if you don't, that's going to create a financial liability, and there's going to create a lot of stress. For families that have that ability, that have the ability to vacation, that have the ability to enjoy the other side of life that does not involve you pulling into a parking lot and working for 8 to 10 hours a day, but enjoying the other things that life gives you, that's not affiliated with money, but allows you to enjoy it and create experiences. I think that's true financial freedom. When you have the ability to do that and not be, I can't do that because I don't have this. And I think that allows you to enjoy life more and not feel like life is this big ball of, I'm working all the time, I never have time to myself. And then before you know it, heart attack, stroke, and your life is over, right? And I think that could be a reality, but it goes back to what we talked about on the front end, like the planning aspect. Do you have a plan for your money before you get it? What are you doing to expand it? Do you know where it's coming from? And if you're at your job, are you trying to get promoted to get more money? Whatever the story is. But I think those are the things that are important.
Let's talk about community partnership and ACEs.
Mhm.
Tell us about Licks and Nelson and how did you two connect and what brought you together around this shared mission?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big nutrition nut. I go to the gym a lot, and I met him at the gym. I met a lot of my clients at the gym, and we talked. And he was at one point he was creating an app called I'm Unique, and it was like a app for people that had disabilities, but more like a Facebook feel. And we stayed in touch. And one day he reached out to me and asked, like, "Hey, Kenny, I have these group of kids that I want you to talk about, financial literacy with." And that's literally how it started. And we've maintained that friendship since then. This was maybe 2021. Um, and he's a good guy, and he's heavily involved. He's actually running for mayor of Miami. He's involved with a lot of different communities, and he believes that in order for us to change the future, we have to invest in today. So I love those type of opportunities because it gives me the ability to share what I've learned. Outside of the life insurance space, I also have my property casualty license. So anything insurance related, I have a strong understanding of. And honestly, a lot of our financial hiccups happens because when something bad happens, we don't have a plan for it or policy. Because all we're doing is just passing, mitigating that risk and passing to somebody else. So the money that you work for, you can keep or allocate to other things and not spend on something that you're never going to get a benefit from.
So, what is the ACEs organization and what does that partnership look like on the ground? What are you two actually building together?
Right now, we just rekindled this relationship, like I mentioned to you before, where he wants to use his nonprofit resources to bring me in as a consultant full time. The last time I spoke with him, it was I did this one class, but he wants to bring me in on a full time spectrum. So he has that as a resource. So his main idea with his company that he provides these employment services to is also giving them resources aside from employment. One of those resources, okay, you get employed. Okay, now that you have this money, what are you going to do with it?
Wow. Okay. Let's go over and let's talk about the birth of your company, KDM.
Mhm.
Because it does like an enormous amount of things as well. How did you get into financial services and walk us through that first step into the industry that opened the door for you?
So I was a father. So my career out of college started with Enterprise Rent a Car. I was a manager in DC or Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, DC area, and I moved to Florida and became a finance manager. And my first job that I did out after Enterprise was the insurance world. I worked at a company called Bankers Life. Did Medicare, long-term care, annuities, life insurance. Did that for 2 years. Wasn't really a big fan because I was forced to kind of sell specific policies. And then I got away from that, jumped back into the working world, worked at a few finance companies. And I decided, after my dad's situation with his heart attack and stroke, I decided to get back into the business. But KDM Direct Consulting Group started when a client reached out to me because he needed executive coaching services. I never thought of it before. It was like the best door knock at I've ever received because I never really thought about owning my own company until he said, "I can pay you, but you need to be a company first." So he's in the middle of he just took on a new role. He was training for a triathlon. He had twins, and his wife just became a stay-at-home wife. So I provided those services for him. So it originally started as a consulting company, and then when I rebranded and brought on the insurance arm, I just kept the same name because at the end of the day, it's not just insurance. Because of the other relationships, the consulting is more of a holistic approach, and not just I'm selling policies. So I wanted to stay away from the typical insurance names because I think that what I provide is more of a holistic approach than just the policy. So that's the story of KDM Direct Consulting Group. It started as an executive coaching company and it morphed to what you see today.
So then when we think about that, Can you tell us about your very first job in financial services? What was that like? What did you learn in those early years that you still use today?
So, as a finance manager, the biggest thing, honestly, is just finding the right product for the client, so they can afford the car, right? So, and having those relationships with the banks and making sure you can explain to a client why they were able to get a specific rate, and that's not always obviously always a great conversation, but also being able to leverage certain things to make sure that that deal went through, whether it was a down payment or putting someone else on a program and say, hey, if you pay these things off, we can get you back into a car maybe next year. That was my first introduction to the finance world, and I loved it. I mean, you get to help people, and I would say my second opportunity was at a company that did business lending to business merchants across the US. And that really opened me up to all types of business. And also the idea that, all these businesses, regardless of where they are, everybody needs cash, and working through that process. The understanding their business model, to understanding their profit loss, to getting them a loan that can help facilitate whatever needs they have for their business. So for me on this end, working in insurance, because I also work with business owners, having that background just makes me more of a consultant when I'm talking to them, because I understand their P&L, which is vital to their business. But then I also understand how insurance policies can mirror some of the things that are currently doing in their business, and hopefully help mitigate risk.
So, out of all the areas that you could have specialized in, tell us what drew you specifically to life insurance and estate planning.
My dad, because we did not have the right plan in place for him, the house that we grew up in, we had to sell it, and that's the house I literally wanted my children to see, and all it would have taken was one day of planning, just one day, and because of that lack of one day, it causes the house that I could have passed to my kids gone forever. And I think it happens a lot in our community because no one is sitting at the table telling them, hey, I know that paying for policy is not the thing that you want to do, right? It's not like going out for drinks on a Friday night. But when you're in a situation where you have options versus somebody telling you can't do something, which would you prefer? And I like having the option to say, I want option A or B, and not somebody telling me I only have option A. And when you don't plan, there's always option A. You don't have the option to do anything else. So for me, the pain of going through that, and then the pain of going through what I went through with my mom and probate, it really takes away from grieving. You can't grieve if you're getting calls from probate on this thing that you have to set up, a bank statement, and you need this. You got to go to the bank, get this notarized. I'm like, I just lost my mom. I don't care about any of this stuff. And if you don't want that to happen, then there has to be a greater need to facilitate a plan. It doesn't have to be an elaborate plan, a plan to help minimize those events from happening. Because if you don't, things are going to fall apart. And it's not like somebody wakes up, oh, I can't wait to buy an insurance policy, until somebody passes or gets sick. And it's like, man, I wish I had a policy. I wish I would increase that policy. It's an unpleasant conversation. Right? I'm not in the business of selling like Lamborghinis. Nobody wants to, like, it's not a line on my door. It's like, oh man, I want to buy one of those life insurance policies. Never gonna happen. But the power of getting that phone call and saying, thank you, Kenny. Thank you for selling that policy. I just lost my dad yesterday. And now they have this check in hand that they can do whatever they want with tax free, all because of the decision they did the day before something bad happened. And that's the picture that I paint when I'm talking to people, because nobody wants to die. But when you do, what's the plan?
So, tell us the story of the moment you decided to build your own firm. What was it? A slow realization, or was there a single moment that made you say, I have to do this for myself?
So when I first relaunched this company, so originally it was 2013 I started KDM. That was 2014 I started KDM Direct. And then in 2020 I rebranded, and I actually originally had insurance, and I had I went and got my National Academy of Sports Medicine certification to do personal training, which I thought I could do both. So I'm training in a day, talking to clients at night, and my time was like spread up. I was doing boot camps on Saturdays. It was crazy. And And what I really looked at is like I have to choose the vehicle that is going to make the biggest impact. Yes, I know health is important. Yes, I know workout is important, but you can be healthy and not have a plan in place, and that's not going to change anything, right? So I put that on the back burner. I still love working out, and I focus 100% on life insurance. And the second that I made that leap, everything just took off. I'm partnered with, so when you're a life insurance agent and you're independent, you have to go under IMO or FMO. And the IMO that I'm under is based in West Palm here in Florida. And they are masterful with relationships, but also giving me resources. And they gave me a lot of tools that I didn't have before and allowed me to grow my business. And speaking of religion and faith and everything. So when I first got back into the business, I reached out to an old agent that I used to work with back in 2009 when I got into the insurance business. And she was retiring, and she gave me her book of business, which is a little over 1,000 clients.
Oh wow.
When you step out on faith, things happen. And that's why you asked that question earlier. When you believe it and you practice it, things will happen. You won't even know why. And why she would give me that. But it just so happened, like I happened to choose get back in the business. I reached out to her. She was retiring. She's like, hey, these are clients. And she passed 2 years ago. But before she passed, we were going on appointments. Still, she was doing an introduction to her old clients to me, saying this is the person that's taking over. And we still was writing business. So and it all boils down to like same thing. Treat people with respect. It's that simple. Have a plan, effort. And things will work in your favor. And relationships are huge.
What does KDM stand for, and what is the deeper meaning behind the name KDM Direct Consulting Group?
So KDM is my initials, Kenyatta Darrell Mitchell. Direct because I wanted to sit across the table and consult, and I just wanted to be as broad as possible because I don't think anybody has one need. I think they have multiple needs, and it's just, do you have the patience to sit across the table and ask enough questions? Right. So at the end of the day, I know I'm going to be able to facilitate the life insurance portion, but if I uncover other needs, I have a network of people that can come in, and because of the relationship I have, I know that they're going to provide the same level of service that I do. So that's why I originally had that. And then, of course, with the executive coaching, I wanted that umbrella because I didn't know if I was ever going to be back in the business again, but I threw it out there. It's like, just in case, I wanted to keep this name pretty basic.
So every entrepreneur has a story of struggle. What were the hardest early days of building KDM like, and how did you survive them?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's getting back into the business and basically telling somebody that, hey, I know a few years ago I was doing this, but now I'm doing this. Because the first thing is like, oh, so what are you doing now? Like, why'd you start this instant? Like, why are you getting into this? And should I trust you? Mind you, I've had 2 decades of experience, but people always question, why are you into this business? Like somebody gets into something new, they want to invite you over for coffee and tea because they want to show you this new product. And for me, I think that was the biggest struggle, is like getting back into the swing of things and establishing those relationships and conversations and learning again. Of course, I had to have my license since 2011. So just getting back into the swing of things. And when I was balancing the insurance and the fitness business, it was tough getting new people. You look online, there's 1,000 fitness influencers and all these different people that are out there. How do you get in front of them? There's thousands of agents, and how do you get your next client? And lo and behold, I stuck with it. Like I said, my wife was a big proponent of that. And then after I say 6 months, I reached out to that agent that was retiring. She gave me a book of business, and then I started calling those clients, and then everything kind of took off. But yeah, it was definitely some low moments, of course, and you got to be just stay persistent. And
So and on the flip side of that, what has been your greatest professional victory? The moment you knew you had built something special?
when other people start coming to me wanting to partner, seeking advice, wanting me to be a part of their team. And I think that's like a true victory when other people can see what you're doing. I achieve awards from my IMO that I'm currently with insurance companies, saying that I did a good job in terms of the amount of business that I've done. And it's like that same feeling that I had when I got on the dean's list, and I was like, oh, I think I can do it.
So, walk us through what a typical day looks like for President and CEO Kenny Mitchell from the moment you wake up to the moment you close your laptop. What does that look like?
So first thing in the morning is I'm looking at my pending cases. So the IMO I have a back office, and they manage all the applications that I write. So from life insurance, annuities, any health applications that I write, they manage that. So I want to make sure that, hey, what's missing, what's next? Because in this business, I don't get paid until the case gets approved. So there's a process. I write the application. Sometimes there's a 4 to 6 week wait, and that 4 to 6 week wait, I'm working with my back office to make sure those policies are being pushed forward. So after that, I have a call with my partners. So I have a partner in Boca that I work with. I have a partner in the local area, and we have mutual insurance licenses. So we're working with mutual clients. Typically trying to set up the week before the week gets too crazy. Usually I set most of my appointments after 2 o'clock. So I go from two to six, and these appointments will be anywhere from life insurance appointments to annuity appointments. I am working with a few younger agents, trying to get them on boarded. I mean, the challenging thing in this business, of course, are leads. So I believe in the 5 foot rule. Wherever somebody is standing within 5 feet of me, I'm telling them what I do. I know it sounds crazy. My wife sometimes like, why are we talking to this person, random person in the elevator? But I've got some of my biggest clients from the golf course. I got one of my biggest clients from on a cruise. One was at a Starbucks. And you have to tell people about what you do because no one knows. At the end of the day, if you're really passionate about what you do, you want to tell people about it. And it's not, in my opinion, I don't have a 5 minute elevator pitch. I'm trying to create conversations. And at the end of the day, those conversations happen to translate to a need. Then we talk about a solution. And I don't look at that as being sales. It's like, hey, if it's raining outside, I have an umbrella. I don't have to sell it to you. You're going to need it. And I think those are the things that I would hope. But if you don't, you're going to get wet. That's on you. But those are the things that I that's basically my day. And it varies based on, like, I have an appointment tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and that same client that I'm meeting with tomorrow, I'm playing golf with on Friday. There's a lot of flexibility when it comes to that. So my kids, like you mentioned, three kids, 2 play volleyball, 1 plays soccer and golf. And this gives me the ability to go to those games and have the flexibility to take them to school and things of that nature. But my days are pretty busy, to be honest.
So, how did you build your client base, especially in a market where trust in the financial service industry is hard earned in the Black community?
Mm-hmm. I'm transparent. I can tell you this, Charles. I don't have an issue with people telling me about their finances. I've had conversations when I've met somebody and we're literally talking about what they have and where it is. Because I have, and this is something that I think I developed as a child, sitting on the porch with my Aunt Nina, being inquisitive, to always ask questions. And I do that same thing now, not from a position of I'm trying to angle how I'm going to get in. I have a genuine curiosity for someone's story. How did you get here? And I think that they can see it, so they don't feel like it's this salesperson trying to sell me sell them a watch or something that they're not going to need. Because at the end of the day, I'll walk away from a sale before I sell something somebody don't need. Because for me, if I have a great experience with someone, they're going to tell somebody else, and the opposite is also true. Especially in the land of social media, that's the last thing I want. So those are some of the things that I don't. So in some cases, yes, I may lead with like a life insurance policy that's not as intrusive as an annuity, where we're talking about moving someone's 401k or their IRA or something that's way more personal than a life insurance policy. Those type of clients may take a few interactions before we do that, but I don't typically have issues with that. And I think it's just a genuine, I am as transparent as I can be, that for most people, they don't feel a need to say, I don't trust this guy, otherwise I don't think the conversation would happen, my sales approach is is telling stories. So I tell people about things that have happened and what I'm currently doing with other clients. And in most cases, they're saying, "Oh, that's awesome. How does that look?" And then it just builds. So I don't have a sales strategy when it comes to that sales, because at the end of the day, it's asking questions and seeing where the voids are.
Final question for you.
Mhm.
You've been married for 17 years.
Mhm.
How has your wife and your family been the fuel behind your professional drive? And what does their support mean to you?
I mean, it means everything. It's nothing for me or for my children to know what client I'm working with. When I say a name, oh, that's so and so. I'm like, yeah. So I involve them in those deals. They sat on the conference call with me, and they've seen exactly how this process works. Because ideally, hopefully, one of them will inherit this business and carry on the insurance name. And my wife has been a pivotal part of my success in general. Me moving to Florida, she was literally, when I first met her, I was a workaholic. I did not believe in vacations. I was like, no, I don't have time for vacations. Like, no, you need a vacation. And she taught me that life is more about creating experiences than chasing money. So it's a balance. Yes, you need money, but if you have all the money in the world, the kids are not going to remember how much money you had in your account. They're going to remember, oh, we went to Disney, we went to this place. So it's that balance. And I think those are the things that are important, and having that foundation of someone that will instill those things that you don't have. Because I didn't grow up vacationing. That was not a part of my life. So I didn't have a need for it. My idea was to get to a certain financial point, and it involved like just working, which you'll burn yourself out. So my wife is my wife, my children.
So, in closing, what are some words of wisdom and encouragement you have for our audience? And you want to tell them how to connect with you via your social media, your website, all of those good things.
I would say if you want to change where you are 5 years from now, it is deeply involved with the books that you read and the people that you associate with. So if you're on social media, that's your primary educational source for getting better, then hopefully they're motivational pages and they're giving you some guidelines on what to do. But if not, you don't even have to commit to 30 pages a day, 10 pages a day. Keep it simple. If your circle does not support what you're doing, or if they are not going anywhere, I'm not trying to say cut people out, but you have a short time on this planet. And if you want to create generational wealth, the conversation should be about that. And if they're not, maybe change the circle that you're in. Because sometimes in order to grow, you have to clip the wings and move on to something else. And unfortunately, it's a difficult conversation, but if you want to change who you are, you have to change your mindset, and that involves changing the conversation. If all you doing is talking about where you're going on the weekend, and that's who did that, and it's all gossipy, then I don't know how much life can change if the conversations are the same. So I would say those two things, and then the third thing is focus on your health. Like, make it a priority, because when you don't make it a priority, your health is one thing that once it gets bad, is really hard to reverse it. So like, take an acid, drink your water, include some type of physical activity if you can. And if you can afford it, get a personal trainer, and just focus on your body, right? And then we focus on those things, the HOME acronym that I mentioned earlier. And you can reach me at KDM Direct Consulting Group at gmail.com, through email, on my cell phone. It's 703-966-4151, or my website, kdmdirectconsultinggroup.com. I'm welcome. I do free policy reviews. I am not a hardcore salesperson. I'm not going to pressure you. I'm not going to use any statistics to make you feel bad. I'm going to listen to your story, and then I'm going to give you the recommendation that's based on your needs. And with that being said, I'm a resource not only in insurance, but other facets of life. So if you just want to talk for motivation or workout or any of that stuff, I'm your guy.
Well, I appreciate you for being here. And for those of you that are listening, I will tell you this. If you would just please go to any of our YouTube channels, especially American Black and White on YouTube. I actually did a post, for this show, where also, as Kenny just gave you his information, there are a lot of other tips and things of that nature that will be very, very beneficial to you. That's on the that's on the YouTube channel as well. So please go and get that information, and please connect with him. Uh, Kenny, in closing, I'm getting ready to close the show.
Okay.
Do you have a few minutes after I close the show?
Yes, I do.
So in closing, I want to thank each and every individual that's been here. You guys have sat through this. You've learned some things about financial literacy, but I want you guys to actually take the opportunity and push that forward and learn a whole lot more. I'm urging you all to please connect with Kenny to learn a whole lot more about financial literacy so that you too can put yourself in a much better place, especially in today's times. So in closing, let me do this monologue because I think this too is very important for each and every individual that's watching. The thing I want you guys to know is your future is worth fighting for. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just witnessed something special. Tonight, Kenny Mitchell walked into this space and gave us everything, his story, his mission, his heart, and his knowledge. And I don't want any of us to leave this conversation the same way we came in. So let me give you 4 things I want you to walk away with tonight. Number 1, life insurance is not a luxury. It is a foundation. If you do not have a policy that changes this week, next month, not next year, this week. Number 2, passing your assets outside of probate is not just for the wealthy. Kenny showed us tonight that every family, every one of us, can structure our affairs so that what we build actually reaches the next generation. Number 3, financial literacy is a community responsibility. You learn it, you teach it, pass it to your children, your neighbors, your church family. Break the cycle of silence that has cost us so much. Number 4, it is never too late and you are never too far behind to start. The best time to build your legacy was yesterday. The second best time is right now. Kenny, on behalf of this entire audience, thank you. Thank you for your sacrifice, your service, and your willingness to show up for our community the way you do. You are living the example of what happens when you honor your purpose and you refuse to stop moving. So if you want to connect with Kenny, visit him at kdmdirectconsultinggroup.com. Call him 703-966-4151 or reach out via email at kdmdirectconsultinggroup@gmail.com. Do not let this conversation end here. Reach out, get your policy review, protect your family, build your legacy, and to everyone watching us here on YouTube, thank you for being a part of this community. Until next time, keep building, keep loving, keep moving forward. This is America in Black and White. Good night. You all have a great evening.